The distress signal came as a faint pulse through the outer edge of the Saurian cluster, barely registering on even the most sensitive deep space receivers. To the inhabitants of the cluster, a plea for aid was rare. Their worlds were isolated, and their populations had long grown self-reliant. Yet, the message was insistent, repeating in a loop, "Help us." The Vorlax swarm approaches. Immediate intervention required. On the other side of the galaxy, in orbit above a scorched Earth recovering from centuries of ecological collapse, a group of humans, the so-called Deathworlders, received the same signal. Earth had forged them into survivors, soldiers capable of enduring environments most species would consider lethal. Their ships were crude by interstellar standards, but they carried weapons that could tear through steel, armor that could survive plasma storms, and a collective resilience that even advanced civilizations feared. Captain Elias Thorne stood on the deck of the Indomitable, staring at the signal's coordinates. His crew, a tight-knit cadre of humans hardened by Earth's unforgiving deserts, oceans, and irradiated zones, waited in silence. "They want help," he said finally, his voice a low rumble. "They requested aid. Let's hope they're ready for us." Lieutenant Mara Kincaid, a sharpshooter known for her uncanny ability to read battlefield chaos before it unfolded, frowned. "Captain, we should consider what form the help might take. The Saurians are delicate. Our methods aren't exactly diplomatic." Thorne's gaze didn't waver from the star map. Delicate doesn't survive a Vorlax swarm. It dies. The journey through the cluster was treacherous. Space itself seemed to conspire against them. Gravity wells twisted unpredictably, asteroids drifted like jagged teeth through their path, and ion storms scrambled their sensors. Yet, the Deathworlders pressed on, moving with the slow, deliberate patience that had kept humanity alive on Earth when continents had turned to deserts and oceans had boiled away. When they finally emerged into orbit above the planet sending the distress signal, the sight was surreal. The surface was not barren. It was lush, almost unnaturally so. Towering flora glowed faintly, bioluminescent rivers wound between crystal mountains, and cities floated in translucent spheres above the ground. Yet there was chaos. Ships burned in the upper atmosphere, and the faintest flickers of Vorlax assault drones raced through the clouds like black hornets. A Saurian delegation awaited them, their forms shimmering like liquid silver, their multiple eyes reflecting both relief and horror. "You are not what we expected," said their leader, Liara. Her voice echoed directly in the minds of the Deathworlders, bypassing language barriers entirely. Thorne inclined his head. "We're what you needed." Liara's gaze swept across the crew, pausing on the towering figure of Braun, a soldier whose body had been conditioned to survive extremes that would shred lesser forms. "We requested a fleet capable of subtle intervention." "Not," she gestured vaguely, "that." Kincaid stepped forward, scanning the horizon. "Subtle doesn't survive Vorlax," she said bluntly. "You wanted aid. You got it." The Vorlax descended like a living storm, their multi-jointed bodies slicing through the atmosphere, weapons flaring in bursts of green plasma. The Deathworlders' response was immediate and unrestrained. Rockets and ion cannons tore through the swarm, explosions throwing shockwaves that rippled across the Saurian cities. The Saurians gasped at the sheer ferocity of it, their elegant protocols and defensive networks overwhelmed by raw, unrelenting human force. Yet, even as the humans fought, Thorne noticed the distress in Liara's expression. "Control," she whispered. "You're destroying the structures we cannot rebuild." Thorne's jaw tightened. He gestured toward a group of Vorlax swarms converging on a crystalline bridge linking two city spheres. "We either stop them now or the bridge and your people burn. That's the choice." Liara's eyes flickered, torn between her sense of order and the primal logic of survival. "Do it," she said finally. The Deathworlders moved with deadly precision. Braun leapt onto the nearest swarm, his armor amplifying every blow, smashing drones into fragments that rained across the cityscape. Mara Kincaid picked off Vorlax strike leaders with single shots, each one detonating the swarm's coordination like a master pianist silencing discordant notes. Elias Thorne directed orbital strikes, timing them so that the energy pulses cleared enemies without destroying the main habitats. Hours passed like minutes. The Saurians began to grasp the strange rhythm of the humans, seeing in their ferocity a pattern that no simulation could predict. They fought not out of strategy alone, but from instinct sharpened by centuries of surviving a planet that refused to yield. Finally, the last Vorlax drone plummeted into the glowing rivers, dissolving in the acidic waters. Silence fell over the planet, broken only by the hum of emergency energy shields and the distant wail of damaged machinery. Liara approached the humans, her form now radiating something between awe and fear. "You call yourselves Deathworlders, yet you are," she paused, searching for the right word. "Miraculous. You saved us, yet you shattered the very world we called home." Thorne's expression was grave. "We save what we can. Sometimes what's left behind is collateral. Survival isn't neat." Kincaid crossed her arms. "Next time you request help, be specific. Otherwise, you get us. And we do things our way." Liara's eyes softened, and the Saurian delegation began coordinating with the humans to repair the damage. As the Deathworlders moved through the floating cities, they saw the intricate care with which the Saurians had built their world. The humans, in turn, offered techniques to reinforce structures against future attacks, integrating brute strength with delicate architecture. That night, as the twin moons rose above the crystalline mountains, Liara visited the Indomitable. She carried a small, shimmering device, almost alive in her hands. "This is a gift," she said. "A token of our gratitude, though I confess, it feels insufficient for what you've done." Thorne took it cautiously, weighing the strange energy pulsing within. "We didn't do it for thanks. We did it because no one else could." Liara's gaze met his, and for a moment, the distance between species seemed to vanish. "Perhaps the galaxy needs more of your kind. Not subtle, not polite, but unstoppable. Yet, I fear what that may mean." Thorne's smile was grim. "Fear is fine. But when the Vorlax return, or whatever comes next, we'll be there. Not because of diplomacy, not because of promises, but because someone has to survive." As the humans prepared to depart, leaving the Saurians to rebuild and recover, a small Vorlax probe drifted from beyond the system. Mara Kincaid noticed it first, her eyes narrowing. "Looks like they didn't get the memo about surviving Deathworlders." Thorne chuckled darkly. "Good. Let's give them a proper introduction next time. The Indomitable lifted off, engines roaring like the heart of Earth itself, carrying the Deathworlders back toward the void, where other worlds would surely need their kind of help. They were not saviors in the traditional sense, nor heroes by any ceremonial definition. They were survivors of a planet that had refused to die, carrying that refusal into the stars. And wherever the galaxy whispered distress, the Deathworlders of Earth would arrive, relentless, unyielding, and unapologetically human. As the Saurians watched the ship disappear among the stars, Liara finally understood the truth. Sometimes, the universe did not need gentle hands. It needed Deathworlders. The message had been clear, though twisted by fate. They requested help, yet the Deathworlders of Earth had arrived instead. And the galaxy would never be the same.